You want some? What is going on, guys? We are back today with another video diving deeper into the Jungle Cup, and today we're actually going to be looking at a pretty highly requested Pokemon. It's going to be Miltank today, which... So I have really high hopes for this Pokemon, but after doing some of this research, it went downhill very fast. So let's go ahead and get into this. So Miltank is a pure normal type Pokemon, maxing out at level 40 with 15s across the board at 2354, which is decent. Probably going to be a little bit better in the Ultra League rather than the Great League. But with a 0-1 attack, 14 defense, 15 stamina at 24.5, you can actually hit that 1500 even, which is always great. According to my spreadsheets and all the numbers that I've ran, Miltank is actually 9th in bulk and 6th in stat product, which is actually really high. And then, of course, all of that does come from our base stats here with a 157 on attack, 193 on defense, and a 216 in stamina. That is just a perfect stat spread for our PvP numbers there. Getting into our moves right away here, so I left off quite a few. I actually left off Extrasensory, Stomp, and Gyro Ball. And let's actually go over those really fast to figure out why. Extrasensory compared to Tackle is just worse. It actually has the exact same energy per turn gain that Tackle does, but it actually has a third less damage per turn even before Stab. So after we factor in Stab, Tackle does go up to this 3.6, while Extrasensory, since we do not carry a Psychic typing, stays at 2.67. Therefore, Tackle just makes a lot more sense here. Then for the charge moves, Stomp and Gyro Ball are actually just worse compared to the other moves that we have. So if we compare Stomp and Body Slam really closely, Body Slam costs 5 less energy to fire and does 5 more damage. So less energy for more output. I'd definitely go with Body Slam there. Stomp just seems inferior in both areas. Gyro Ball is a very similar story. Gyro Ball, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam could all be compared, and since none of them gain Stab, they all kind of have the same little like uniqueness to them, but Gyro Ball costs 5 more energy as Thunderbolt and Ice Beam do, and does 10 less energy. So here again, it's just worse on all fronts, and it doesn't really have a great advantage whenever you think about the cup. It doesn't have any like huge advantage being steel type move because there's not too many things that are going to actually be weak to steel here. So that actually leaves us with the 4 moves that we have written up here. We do have Tackle for 2 energy per turn. We do get 3 damage per turn. After Stab, it does get bumped up to 3.6. Then we do have Body Slam for 35 energy, we get 60 damage at a 1.71. After Stab, we do get bumped up to 72 for a 2.05 on the damage per energy ratio. Thunderbolt and Ice Beam both are 55 energy to fire, they both have 90 damage, and they both have a 1.64 on the damage per energy ratio. So it really came down to, do we want to run Thunderbolt or do we want to run Ice Beam? And out of those two, Ice Beam definitely makes a lot more sense here. Because Thunderbolt is actually going to help us up against the flying types, that's one merit for it. But Thunderbolt actually will not help us much more outside of the flying types here, whereas Ice Beam actually does help us up against the flying types, but it also will help us up against the grass types as well. So it definitely has a little bit more merit there. So for the purposes of this video, we are going to go with Tackle, Body Slam, and Ice Beam as our moveset. We are going to continue with that moveset throughout the shield situations and on into our simulations later on. Speaking of shields, let's actually go ahead and go over our 0 versus 0 shield here, which is actually a 51.5%. That's not too bad. We actually do fairly well there, and at least 50% is what I like to see. And especially in a cup where we have 4 different typings, that's at least 2 full typings worth of Pokemon, roughly speaking, that we would actually win against, which is always nice. Now we do have in the 2 versus 0, we actually have a 99.3% here, which the only Pokemon that we actually end up losing to, which is what I'm actually looking for here, is Vigoroth, which that shouldn't be too surprising. Vigoroth, you know, he's the king of the jungle. What are you going to do? Next, we have the 0 versus 2, which we actually want to figure out which Pokemon we still can end up beating, even though our opponent actually has full shield advantage here. We only have a 0.7. No, not 7%. 0.7. And the only Pokemon that we actually beat is Slacking. for what that's worth. Last but not least, we do have the 2 versus 2, which is where I have both shields this time, and my opponent actually has both shields. We actually have a 44.8%, which is okay, that's respectable. And what that actually ends up telling me is that statistically, we're actually going to do better as a closer with Miltank rather than we would as an opener. So, kind of a decent situation here. I'm at this point when I'm doing research, I'm like, oh, okay, so tackle's not that great of a move, but hey, we've got Body Slam and Ice Beam, which I'm a really big fan of Body Slam, and Ice Beam seems really strong in this cup. We're also really high on our rankings here, so we should be looking pretty sweet here. After the shields, I'm like, okay, these aren't amazing, but they're respectable. And then we get into our matchups. So for the actual matches that we're gonna do here, we're actually gonna go up against the top 22 meta-relevant Pokemon that is defined by PB Poke here. As you can see, we are gonna build our Miltank with Tackle, Body Slam, Ice Beam. We're gonna give ourselves 1 shield. We're gonna do a multi-battle here with a custom group. Quick fill it for the Jungle Cup meta. Give them a shield as well once we hit battle. Holy cow, is that rough. Okay, so let's go over these. So the only 2 wins that we actually have are Scyther and Pidgeot. Then we actually end up tying it up against both Knocked Out and Venusaur. And then we have this long list of losses here. So we lose against Magnezone, Vespiquen, Lantern, Graveler, Masquerain, Forretress, Raichu, Beedrill, Ivysaur, Venomoth, Breloom, Credilli, Heracross, Magneton, Victreebel, Scizor, Golem, and then last but not least, we do lose up against the king of the jungle himself, Vigoroth. So, I was really surprised to see how bad we actually fare up against the entire meta. Scyther and Pidgeot, those 2 do make some sense. Noctowl, it's got a lot of bulk. It just works out to where Ice Beam just doesn't put enough work in for us. It's a very similar situation with Venusaur there. I'm sure if Venusaur actually runs with Razor Leaf, let's actually just double check this. If we switch that to Razor Leaf, it's probably going to annihilate us. Yeah, we still end up just flat out losing rather than tying up against the Venusaur there. So for what that's worth, if you like to run Razor Leaf, then you win against the Miltank. Then we also have the Magnezone. I mean, just it gets really bad through here. I mean, there's just not a lot that we're able to actually do. Which this was a turning point for me. I was like, holy cow, Miltank, not looking too hot. So now let's actually go over our coverage section here, which in this section we're actually going to take a look at each individual typing that's available in the cup, see how we do up against that whole typing. And with Miltank here, we're still going to build it with Tackle, Body Slam, Ice Beam, give ourselves 1 shield. We're going to this time still do multi-battle, but we're going to change it to just the Jungle Cup this time, give them 1 shield, hit battle. As you can see there, we do have 51 wins here. And to start us off with our first typing, we do fairly well up against the normal typings. Only 10 losses and 9 ties. And as you can see here, in the normal typing, we do have Licky Licky at the very top, Slacking also pulling up there, Fearow, Spinda, Baneri. Yeah, a lot of these are pretty nice. I mean, there's quite a few normal types that we're winning against, especially some of the lesser meta flying type Pokemon, kind of some of the off meta flying types we do really good up against. And then once we get into these ties, you can see Ambipom, Castform, Dunsparce, Farfetch, Loudred, Miltank ourselves, of course, Noctowl, Porygon, Teddiursa, Blissey. Yeah, it just starts to fall apart here. All the way down, you can see Vigoroth, of course, is going to give us the worst time as far as a matchup goes. Furret, also going to be pretty bad. Embabarrel is actually another one that's pretty rough. Now, as far as the typings that we do pretty bad up against, we do have Bug, Electric, and Grass here, all pretty rough. Let's actually start with Bug here. We'll see 6 wins. We do have the win up against Pineco. Okay, Beautifly, Butterfree, Yanma, Ariados, Ladian, Dustox is our first loss there, and then it just kind of goes downhill. Scyther, Vespiquen, Volbeat. Let's just see the worst ones possible. Anorith, Scizor, and Armaldo. Surprisingly, Anorith gives us more problem than Armaldo does, but okay. Scizor, of course, is a pretty big one there. Heracross also relatively important to remember, and the bug types still give us quite a bit of problem. We're definitely losing more than 50% of these matchups, so bug type isn't necessarily the greatest thing to go up against if you're running a Miltank. Next, we do have the electric typing here, and with the electrics, we actually have 7 wins and 5 ties, so okay. We do have a win against Flaffy, Minun, Electrode, Ampharos, Chinchou, Jolteon, Plusle, and then we do get into these ties here, Luxio, Luxray, Magnemite, Alolan Raichu, Raikou, and then we do start to lose up against the Geodude, the Golem. Let's actually just look at the very bottom here. Magneton, Magnezone, and Raichu are our worst possible matchups, and those make a lot of sense. Raichu especially, having access to Brick Break, being that we do have that fighting type weakness, does end up giving us a lot of trouble there, so the electric types are just rough, man. They're just... Miltank is just rough, let's just put it that way. Last but not least, we do have the grass typing here, and the grasses, we actually end up having 10 wins and 7 ties. Whew. So the wins actually are not super amazing, but Cacturne, Celebi, Execute, Lombre, Snover, Jumpluff, Carnivine, Nuzleaf, Oddish, Torterra. And then we do tie up against the Abomasnow, Alolan Executor. The one that I thought that we would do like hardcore good up against, Alolan Executor, is a tie. Then we have Grotto, Ludicolo, Roserade, Turtwig, Venusaur, and then we start to lose with the Shiftry, and we'll just scroll down to see the worst possible matchups. Leafeon, Victory Bell, Executor, Tangrowth, and Sunflora there. And that's kind of where I was like, oh, Miltank is not as good as I was hoping. So I really think where Miltank starts to lose its falter is the fact that it only has a fast move capable of doing 2 energy per turn. Whether you like tackle or whether you want to run extra sensory, whichever one you go with, you're gonna be hindered quite hard because you're only gaining 2 energy per turn. Two energy. And that really slows you down. Like, Body Slam is your fastest move, but even then it's still gonna take you over 5 full seconds to get to that first Body Slam. And Body Slam is usually one of those moves that you like spam out fast, super quick. But in this scenario, it's just kind of like a regular move. It's not that super fast spammy type move. It becomes rather slow because we don't have the energy per turn gain in the fast move area to really just output a ton of damage. So, with all of that, I'm not a huge fan of Miltank whatsoever, especially up against the meta. I've never seen this much red on this board since I've been doing deep dives. So, I hate to say it, but Miltank is a no-go for me. Once I like got through the moves and the shields, I was like, oh, maybe I might have to go look for one of these, but no. Not for me. So that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Coming up, we do have this. I haven't seen it yet. Last I saw, I think it was Masquerain. Hopefully that's still it, or I'm going to sound like a dummy. But that's actually what we have coming up for Monday, should be, unless you guys do some crazy voting over the weekend. It definitely could be. For this weekend, I will already go ahead and tell you, Saturday, I do have a versus video between 2 fighters. I'm gonna leave some suspense here. And for the video on Sunday, I actually have a versus video for 2 flyers. Not the like flyer that you see hanging on a bulletin board, like a flyer. Flyer. You know, you get it? Okay. So always remember that if you do have a deep dive idea, you can go ahead and comment it down below. We'll put it into the spreadsheet. We'll get it added. Of course, that is what drives this spreadsheet here. Whatever you guys vote for goes into the spreadsheet. And we'll get to it as soon as I can. I go in order, and if there's multiple Pokemon in order, I just kind of go with alphabetical order, just because that's the way the spreadsheet sorts it. So, yeah. So anyways, that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching again. Always remember that if you... I already said that. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching again. Always remember that if you like to like videos, you can do that. But if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below. And until our next video, I will catch you then.